All right, let's go ahead and get started. So my name is Ryan Lowe, and I am building an Amazon Alexa skill live. So I am a technical evangelist for the Amazon Alexa team. My job is to inspire and educate developers to build with Alexa, and Alexa skills are a huge piece of that. And so part of my job is to be fluent in these technologies myself. So I thought I could kill many birds with one stone if I basically build a skill live, and hopefully other people can follow along and find this content useful. So what am I actually building? I'm building something for a very specific use case. So I, along with a co-host, Jeff Blankenberg, host office hours for Alexa developers every Tuesday morning. And so what we do is we stream live on Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And we allow developers to ask questions, and then we answer them. We do this every Tuesday. We've been doing it for a long time, longer than before I joined the team. And so now it's a great resource because developers, if they have a question, can get online and ask. But the problem is, what do we do with these hours and hours and hours of archive footage? So when we're done with the live stream, the video gets saved in YouTube, and you can go and search all these previous office hours going back, quite a long time. But this content is really unusable. And what I mean by that is, like, if you just want to go and watch an old office hours, you certainly can. If you have a particular question in mind, let's say you have this question Tuesday afternoon and office hours just ended, you have to wait another week to be able to ask the question, or you can go through the old archive video footage, but there's no way to actually find what you're looking for. You'd just be looking for a needle in a haystack through hours and hours and hours of footage if your question was even asked to begin with. So I'm trying to develop a skill that will make all that content usable. And so what I'm doing is my end result is going to be an Alexa skill, so that I could go to like one of my Echo devices, I have some back here, and say, show me a time from office hours when Jeff and Ryan were discussing Alexa presentation language or in-skill purchasing or XYZ specific question. And the skill will actually return the particular video and zoom right to that point so I can begin watching just as that question's asked, and we start to answer it. That's what I'm building, and I'm starting in the back end to do all this. So I'm starting with building the infrastructure that'll pull down the YouTube videos and then persist all that data into a database. And then eventually here soon, I will be getting to the front end piece, the actual Alexa code to make this work. So everything I've done so far, I've been streaming for a few weeks now, is all about getting data into the database. And this could be used, this could be used outside of Alexa, right? We're just taking a YouTube video and we're indexing it. And storing that, and maybe this database could also be used to connect to the documentation for Alexa.com or developers.amazon.com, and so then we can tie in these search results elsewhere. Maybe we could be pulling in all kinds of other YouTube videos from the Alexa channel and indexing those. We have all kinds of other great content there. So that's what I'm building. So I can switch over here, and you can kind of see the architecture diagram of this. So the other piece of this, I am open sourcing this. I do have a repository. So if you go to my spot in GitHub, you can find this repo. I have it linked on my Twitch account. And this is one of the pinned repositories, so it should be pretty easy to find. I need to update this graphic. But I am working on this, again, from the back-end front. And these are the AWS services that I am working with. So I built this as like a proof of concept in my head a few months ago, I think back in September. And then, because I wanted to make sure that this was actually doable. And then my calendar and everything, I just didn't get started until this year. But I had this a little bit rough in my head. Like I had some ideas. And so my architecture diagram shows how completed it is in my head. I have not designed this through and through. And in fact, I've had to rework some ideas already because they weren't exactly what I originally assumed them to be. But that's fine. This is iterative. We're doing an agile approach, which means no designs. We just run at full steam, right? So this is the kind of the current state of things. You can see here that a lot of this is going to be in AWS. I haven't gotten to Alexa again, and YouTube is where all these videos are archived. So what we want to do is we want to create some sort of subscription so that we get notified when a new YouTube video gets saved on the Alexa developers channel. And I just figured that out, and I think we're going to get to this today using Google's PubSub which is an open source protocol, to then have them notify us when a new video gets dropped. We will then put that through API Gateway, which is a great API interface. The other piece of this I should explain is I'm doing as much as I can in serverless technology, so you won't see EC2 instances on here. You won't see load balancers. We're going to be using Lambda for almost everything. And then we're going to actually persist that file in Amazon S3, and we're going to persist a bunch of metadata about that video in DynamoDB. And this is so that when we're doing a search and we get search results back, I can show metadata about the video, when it was first loaded, what the name of the episode was, link back to the YouTube URL, and so on. And then there's a series of other AWS functions that we need to do. The end result is I'm going to get this into Amazon Elasticsearch, which is the database I chose to do the full text searching. I think it's actually called Amazon OpenSearch now. Lucidcharts just doesn't have an icon that says, but you know what? I'm just going to change it because I can change this. So OpenSearch service. So the end result is there, but we have to do a few different things to it. The biggest thing we're going to do is we're going to transcribe the video. So we're going to take the video content, we're going to run it through Amazon Transcribe, which is an amazing service that outputs just a stream of text with punctuation and everything, but it'll pull out the complete text of this video, which is the key. We also want to run it through Amazon Comprehend, which kind of helps take that raw, huge blob of text, breaks it down to paragraphs, and gives it a little more comprehension. We'll actually tag it and give us a little bit better understanding of what that text is. Then we can store that in Elasticsearch or OpenSearch. The first thing we have to do, though, is we have to manipulate the YouTube video. And this is what I've been working on the last couple of days. I'm using an amazing service called Media Convert in AWS, but I've never used this before. So I'm really fumbling around, and I am not a media expert. So all these different formats and such I'm new to, so I'm learning quite a bit along the way. And one of the things that I learned last time that I was kind of working with is when you call the YouTube APIs, it gives you a variety of different formats to choose from. And I was having trouble finding the right format because I was looking for one that had HD content and the audio, like high quality content, video content. But that's not the way YouTube gives you videos. And I guess this is common, and I guess everyone knows this, and I don't. Again, this is not my expertise. And so I did actually spend some time over the weekend and at night trying to figure this out and fumble around with it. And so I didn't stream this mostly because it was just constant trial and error because, again, I don't know what I'm doing. I should have streamed it, but I didn't. It was also weird hours and intermixed in between family time. But I got it. I got it to work. So last time, what I was working on is updating my step function state machine. So I'm using state machines to kind of orchestrate this entire thing. I'll show that in a minute. And I was really working on how do I download this YouTube video, given the YouTube URL, and store that file in Amazon S3. And I found a Node.js library that works great. I just didn't know what I was doing. And I was able to download videos. In the first attempt, I downloaded a video that didn't have any audio to it, so Amazon Transcribe failed. My next attempt, I had to downgrade. I had to get a video of lower quality. So all I have to say, what I've learned is that what I need to do is actually download the video and the audio separately. And so that's what I did. And then I used Media Convert to actually stitch those two together and convert it to an output format that Amazon Transcribe can use. And so really, really cool thing I was able to do, but it took me a ton of trial and error. And if I go into, I'm in the AWS console, I'm going to go over to Media Convert, and I can kind of show you what I was doing. So I I'm defining all this as infrastructure as a code. I'm using the service application model that sits on top of CloudFormation to define all this. But what I did was I came in to the console to play around and try and figure all this out. So you can see I had all kinds of errors, and I finally got to a point where it was actually working. And so the way that now I specify media convert is I give it, let me actually view the JSON. So, and I had to read through documentation and all kinds of other fun stuff. So now, actually the best way to show this would just be if I go start to duplicate this. So now what I do is I have an input that is just the video. It's just the video, no audio. And then I say the audio is actually in an external location here. And then the output is the output file that I need. So Media Convert brings these two together and creates an output video file, which is perfect. This is an amazing service once you have any idea what you're actually doing. The downside of this is that I wasn't able to use a job template. So previously what I was doing is I was creating a job template that had all those settings that I just looked at. So I'd define all the settings there. And then when I go to create the job, I just say, create a new job. Here's the input file. Here's a job template. And off it goes. And so my API call was really, really simple. And the job template had everything. The issue I ran into is that external file source for the audio would have to actually go into the job template. You can't create a job template without specifying a valid URI for that. And I didn't want to do it that way. You can override it when you go to create the job and everything. But so long story short, I go in, this is my local machine now. So this is on the left here is my SAM template and CloudFormation template. This is what I've been working on. This is what's in my GitHub repository. And this is what I use to deploy all my changes up to AWS. I had a template defined, but I actually just scrapped it. So I scrapped that. And then if I go to my media convert start, that's, where is it? Media convert start. Now, instead of a really simple API call, I just pasted all the settings in here. So again, over the weekend, I was mucking around with different settings. I failed a number of times. And then once I got a job that actually worked, I just came in here and said, export JSON. And so then I was able to look at the JSON and structure my API call to match exactly that. So here you can see now my media convert start doesn't take in a job template. What it does take in is the video file location, audio file location, and I pass that in as here. So here's my video file location and then my external audio file, and this works great. So I'm able to take this and again attach the video, which is now 920 by 1080, and attach it with a high quality audio file and create an output file that is of high quality, which is fantastic. The other change that I had to do then was I had to go into my Lambda code that downloaded the video and actually download both the video and the audio separately. And what I did, I could have done this in two different Lambda functions, but I decided, you know what, I'm just going to stream this all at the same time. So I rewrote this a little bit. So now I'm grabbing the video file, which has a format ITAG of 137. So if I do a search over here, so this on the right, I should explain this. This on the right is JSON code. Actually, it's just the JSON output of calling the YouTube API getInfo. So I call getInfo to figure out what the information is. It tells me what formats are available. And format 137 gives us HD 1080, which is 920 by 1080, has video true, but has audio false. So then what I also do in parallel is I download 251, format identifier 251, which if we come down here, you can see has video false but has audio true. So now I'm downloading the video and the audio in parallel using like a parallel promise.all. I pulled out and made like a YouTube downloader function. So this will download the YouTube video and pipe it straight to S3, which is great. Now I can run this in a Lambda. And then I'm also in this function. The main reason why I called the getInfo function or method API is so I can get the title, name, publish date, and other information and store that in DynamoDB. So I'm storing all the metadata for the video. So the input to this this Lambda function didn't change. All it needs is the YouTube URL. But I re-implemented it. Again, sorry I didn't do this live. It was a mess. I was doing a lot of things. Just coming into the console and mucking around, changing settings. I was modifying Lambda in the console, which is a great way to debug. Like I always want my local, because I'm using SAM to deploy. I always want my local to be the source of truth for all this. But I find it much easier to go experiment in the AWS console, take my learnings, and then bring them back into code. It can get dangerous and get out of sync, but that's what I love to do. I just realized I never actually saved this. Let's do YouTube info sample.json. Okay, I just realized I never saved that file, and that's starting to bug me. I'm actually gonna, I'll just leave it there. Okay, so now I can close this. And so let's look at the state machine. The state machine didn't change. So if I go back to my CloudFormation stack and go to resources, I can find my state machine and use this link to go directly to it. This is the state machine. What failed? Last time it failed. Where did it fail? I may just need to kick it off. Oh, my transcript. Okay, let's take a look at that in a second. So again, in my template, let me just close all these windows. Don't save. Okay, so let me go to my template. In my template, I'm defining all the Lambda functions. I define all the roles and the permissions, and then I'm also defining a state machine. So the state machine, again, is my orchestration. And what do I mean by this? So this state machine is going to get kicked off by my API gateway input. So when a new YouTube video comes in, it's going to go to a Lambda. That Lambda is going to initiate and start this state machine. That's what we're getting. I'm going to start on that today. That first part. The state machine then runs and does a bunch of different tasks. And the reason why I'm using state machine, this is a really long running process. This whole entire thing might take an hour to run. First thing I have to download YouTube videos, then I have to do transcribe, then I have to do comprehend. Oh, before that I have to do convert the file over. So all this takes time. And state machine allows me to do this in a really nice way serverlessly. So I define these different states, and then I create little Lambda functions. Not all of these are Lambda functions, but a lot of them are. So YouTube download was the code I was just showing. All it does is download the YouTube video and store metadata, and then it's done, and it passes on to the next step. The next step then calls media convert and says start this job. Media convert takes about 10 to 15 minutes to run for an hour-long video. So what I do is I say call media convert, and I say start this job. And actually, let me show that. So media convert start. I showed it earlier. It's now it's only like 100 lines long, and most of it is just API, right? Like I could get rid of what is this, like 40 or 60 lines of code if I were just to put this all just into one line. But the function itself is actually really simple. All it does is kick off the media convert process. That's it. And it executes in a matter of milliseconds. So the charge is like negligible. And then state machine takes back over and says, I'm just going to wait 30 seconds. I know this is going to take 10 minutes. So I'm going to wait 30 seconds and then check on the status. There's another function that I wrote, media convert status, which all it does is check on the status. Again, this line is only 50 lines of code. So the point being, I can create all these like micro Lambda functions that do one thing and use state machine to stitch it together. So it checks the status, and then the next step is the state machine says, is the status complete? If it's complete, then continue on. If it's not complete, go back and wait for another 30 seconds and try this again. You could, have Lambda sleep for this entire 10-minute period and keep checking on it that way. You're going to pay a ton of money for Lambda to be executing and sleeping. Or you could spin up an EC2 instance to do this. There's a lot of different ways to do it. This is my preferred way of doing it, is using state machines. The nice thing is too, is then you can define like different error conditions and you can kind of follow it. And then as you can see here, you can see what happens when the transcribe process fails. And so here is an interesting, I'm going to kick off and just do a new execution on this, because I don't remember after I fixed everything, if I did it again. But I'm going to go back. So I started a new execution. This is going to take some time to run through. We'll check on it over time. This one I started on the 29th, which was Saturday. So let me just go and look at this failure. So I can go back to a previous execution of this state machine and look at what happened. So transcribe status failed. And the exception is the Lambda did not timed out after 3 seconds. This should not time out after 3 seconds. It's a really simple transcribe status. And if I pull that function up, you can see it's really not doing anything. All it's doing is calling get transcription job and pulling in the status and then returning back out. So this not completing in 3 seconds is really, really interesting. I'm going to click on this from the state machine, load the Lambda code. And we can look here, and then I'm also going to click here and look at the CloudWatch logs. So state machine only has like the execution or the exception and a few other details. The CloudWatch logs, I'm trying to log everything possible inside the CloudWatch logs, so we should be able to see there what's going on when this ran. And here you can see, okay, so request ID 6A7, that is weird. So it looks like it started here. Yeah, start request, end request, and it failed. So it didn't even get to this point. Something weird happened. And it didn't even get to here, and it just timed out. So that's really odd. Let's see what happens with the latest execution of step function. I'm just verifying that the code that is deployed is exactly the same as on my local machine. Like there wasn't like some weird glitch when it uploaded it. And actually, one of the things I can do, I can go back to my state machine that failed. And if I click on step input, it'll tell me exactly what was passed to the Lambda function. So as it's going through, the Lambda function gets passed data that was the output of the previous Lambda function. And the output of this Lambda function will get passed to the next one. So if I take the step input here, I can call my Lambda function directly without waiting to go through the entire state machine just to see what happens. So I'm creating a test event in the Lambda console. And I'm just going to click test and see what happens when I execute this. And it worked. So I'm just going to say there was some weird glitch that I'll have to come back to later and kind of figure that out. That is a really weird error, though. It does look like I need better error handling and do things like if this error happens, like just do a retry. Like don't necessarily fail. Here, I'm allowing the Lambda function to bubble up exceptions to the state machine. The state machine then fails catastrophically. I'm in development. This is actually helpful for me to see that this actually failed. As I move this to production, I'd want to put this in, and I probably will. I'll put this status in in some sort of retry logic so that it doesn't fail spectacularly. Because if this was just like a moment in time glip, then if I retried it, it should be fine. So I'm not going to worry about that just yet. And then I'm just going to check to make sure my new state machine is running great. So I already downloaded the video. It's chunking along. This is fantastic. So that's where we are today. Let me go back to my architecture here. So I have my state machine. I think my state machine's done. It's not done, actually. I don't have the database yet. So the beginning part of my state machine's done. It downloads YouTube video from a URL, does the conversion, joins the audio and video together. It then transcribes and does comprehend and outputs a bunch of text. I haven't actually saved that text into the database yet. We'll probably get to that here. That's the very next thing to do once I get this trigger working. And the idea being, I want to get this trigger working by the end of the session today, so that when we do Office Hours Live tomorrow, this will trigger off, and I can go back into logs and see like the whole completed chain of getting text. That's my goal. Let's see if we can get there. Okay, so we got this working, and actually, this is the better diagram. I need to update my GitHub diagram with this one. So you can see here, I've determined that pub/sub hubbub is the best. That's the wrong window. Is I think the best way to do this. And so here we could say, what I did is I was looking through the YouTube APIs, trying to figure out how to get notifications. Came across this, and it says YouTube supports push notifications via pub/sub hubbub, a server-to-server publish subscribe protocol. And so you give it the YouTube channel that you want, and then it will send you, when new videos are posted, an Atom feed. And this is what the Atom feed sample looks like. It has one entry in this case. I think it's always going to have one entry because it's just like uploading each new video. And you can see here, this has everything I want, which is really, I just want this URL right there. That's all I need. And so this subscription method should allow me to do that. And so I went to the Google pub/sub hubbub, and this is how this works. So here's the channel ID for the Alexa developers. You can get this quite easily. So this is the topic URL that I want to subscribe to. I need to find a callback URL. So this is the URL that is going to get called when we do this. And so I need to create that. And I need to, the way that we create like serverless APIs is with API Gateway, with a Lambda behind it. So also this diagram, as you can see, doesn't really have all the different Lambda functions. There's Lambda functions all over here. I draw diagrams that kind of tell the story, not necessarily are like super accurate of what is getting deployed. And we could have CloudFormation to create the full diagram of like all the different architecture pieces. We're not going to mess with that. So today we need to start by creating an API gateway and a Lambda function behind that. And then from there, that will it'll parse the Atom feed and then call our state machine to trigger that. So let's open up our template. And again, we're using service application model. So we're not using straight CloudFormation syntax. Server application model kind of sits on top of that and does a transform into CloudFormation. That's kind of my understanding of it. It does a lot more than that. One of the reason why I'm doing that is because it'll actually go and compile all my Lambda functions together and create zip file deployments and then upload those to S3. So I don't have to worry about that. That's really handy. The other thing it does is allows me to do some shorthand syntax, and that is what we're going to take advantage of right now when creating an API gateway. I've not done this before, and again, I do the same thing with my DynamoDB table. Here's a really concise statement to create a DynamoDB table in SAM, serverless language. The CloudFormation isn't much bigger, but it is bigger, and so this is just handy. So I need to create a couple more resources so we can have an API gateway so I can put that in there. So the best way to do this is pull up in the SAM documentation. And if I Google one of these YAML types, it usually is able to pull right to the documentation the quickest. That's kind of my little hack to get to the documentation, because what I want to get to is the specification. You can do state machines in SAM. I did state machine in strict CloudFormation because I had copies or old samples that I can copy from. But what I want to do is I want to create an API. And what I want to do is AWS SAM. I'm just looking for an example, so I don't have to like read through all this documentation and understand exactly what's going on. I just want an example with a Lambda function. So let's see if I can find like a blog post or something that makes this super easy to pull out. There we go. This is exactly what I want. I want to post, but this will get me started. Okay, let's get down to. I missed it. It's that short. Oh, you know what? They're doing it. They're using a template. Oh. Okay, that's the function. Where is example? I want to get this for sure. They're not even defining. Interesting. Okay, let's just try this. So I need to say YouTube callback API is the name I'm giving it. Type. I already copied paste type. Type will be that. Properties. I need to figure out if any of these are required. I don't think any of these are, so I'll need to figure out what which of these I actually want to define. So API Gateway is a fantastic service. You can define like all your REST. Actually, let me show you. Let me show here. So if I go into the console, I think there's like a sample. Yeah, there's a sample API Gateway stored in here. So you define basically your whole API, and you can define documentation, you can define core support, you can define all this. And then what you do is you say, this path has a post, and this post will go to a Lambda function. And so that's what we're doing. And then the nice thing is you can come in here and do test events, which we'll also do here shortly, and test all this out. So I use API Gateway a lot. There's lots of different other ways to create an API. API Gateway is just kind of my preferred way of doing it. So I'm just verifying that, like, okay, required stage name. The name of the stage. So when you create an API, you create different stages. So you define the resources here, and you can create different stages like test and production and so on. And you can define different settings for all those different stages. So we'll just call this production. We're not going to have multiple stages. We don't need it. We're just doing a really simple call. And what I'm doing is I'm just looking at these required attributes to make sure that I have all the ones that are required, yes. I could actually just do a search for that, couldn't I? The stage name is the only one that's actually required. And the stage is where you'd actually get the URI. So I want to get to the point where I have like the URL coming out of it. And I believe I can do, well, that's nice to give you, I want to definitely define a little more. This is nice. They give me a nice example here. So I think I don't need to define the events here. I think I can define them. Oh yeah, that is actually in the Lambda function. So, okay, this is exactly what we want to do. So here is the API gateway, and then now we need a function. So I'm going to put this let me copy another function. Okay, so YouTube callback lambda, I'm just going to call it. Actually, I'm going to call it callback API. YouTube callback API lambda. Okay, so here are the code URI. I need to create a new folder. Let me just copy. I'm just going to copy one. Duplicate this. YouTube callback API. Okay, it's going to be, I actually don't want this to be Node. I want to go back to Python. So I'll change, and I don't need to muck with the default timeout or memory size. Okay, so now we're back in Python. I don't need, so environment variables, I don't need to pass it any data really. So the method I copied from takes in the bucket name and table name. We don't need to do that, but what we do need to do is we need to pass in the state machine, ARN, and let me figure out how to get that. So what I need to be able to do is trigger our state machine from this Lambda function. So let me look at the documentation for this and figure out how do we get the ARN. It should be, if you come down to return values, you can see the ref. So if you can do a couple different internal functions inside of CloudFormation. So I could do reference this resource, but that will return me, it actually will, it returns the ARN of the resource. This is exactly what I want. There's also get attributes, so I could say, what's the name of the state machine and pass that in. But for right now, I believe what I want is the ARN, so I'm just gonna do this. Sometimes you do get attribute resource name.arn, but for this particular resource, it is the ref value we want. Okay, and then the policies for this. So we don't need it to write anything into S3, and we actually don't need it to write anything in DynamoDB, but I'm gonna just rewrite over this. Trigger state machine. So we want to allow something on the state machine ARN. So here, if I say this, the resource of this new permission will be the state machine. And now I need to look up state machine permissions. AWS state machine helps to type permissions. Not create state. I bet I need to do list state machines. I always give each Lambda as small of a scope of permissions as possible. This is definitely a best practice to do this. And it really saves your butt from accidentally doing something really bad. So from this Lambda function, this is going to have access to the public internet is going to be able to call this Lambda function via my API. And so I don't want it to say have read access to the entire S3 bucket. The code I'm going to write will protect me from doing something nefarious, but also giving it a very restrictive role will also make sure that happens. So start execution is really the one that I think I need, but I'm going to add describe and list state machines just so that I know, just so I'm confident that this will have the right permission. And the nice thing is when I go to execute this, and if I don't have the right permissions, the error log should say, not insufficient permissions, or it'll tell me what permission is missing. Okay, so this is how I defined all the lambdas before, because I was going to trigger them either manually or via state machine, but now I actually want to trigger it via my API. So where did I go? You come back to here. Okay, So now the other thing SAM gives you is the ability to specify events. And this is really cool because to do this without SAM is possible, just not necessarily intuitive and easy. So I'm going to give it an event. Let me go up and look at the syntax for this. Hold on a second. Ooh. Okay, so what I want to do is look at, where's events? Why am I not seeing it? Oh, because I need to go to my Lambda. This is the, okay, let me go to the Lambda definitions. And from here, there's an event source. So event, and then this is the name of the event, so it's just an API event. Type is API. So here you can see type, it can be any of these. I'm just doing an API. There it is. And then I give it a path, method. My method is going to be post. And then what else do we need? There's not going to be any auth on this. I will put into my API code. So from API Gateway's perspective, it's going to be an open API. Anyone can call it. My Lambda function is going to do a challenge to make sure that it's coming from the right source. And so here, instead of this, I'm going to call, okay. So the REST API is going to tie back to this. The other thing that I need is, I need to, I haven't done this yet. Actually, I don't have any. So at the bottom of all these functions, I always put outputs. I don't have any outputs yet. And so what I want to do is have an output of this to be the URL of my state machine, or API gateway. I'm trying to remember how the syntax for this exactly. Let's see, this is blog. Okay. Yeah, so I'm just going to copy this. Okay. So outputs. I didn't need to do that. API gateway endpoint for prod stage for YouTube trigger. And then here, okay, so what I do is I paste in here the reference to my API resource. This will automatically pass in the right region, and then our path is just / So we'll test this, but the nice thing is, like, I go to my CloudFormation once I define this, and then the output will have like this. So I can just go and copy this URL and give it to the pub sub hubbub, and it should be fine. Okay, so I've got my API resource defined. I have my Lambda function now with the proper event trigger and the proper policies. So this should be fine. Now I need to actually go write the code for this Lambda function. I've defined the infrastructure in this YAML file. That's what I'm doing. I've defined the infrastructure. And again, I could go into the AWS console and configure all this by hand. The problem then be, if anyone else wanted to use this code, they would have to go and recreate every single one of these pieces of infrastructure and properties. That can be very time consuming and error prone. So this allows me to just redeploy and then redeploy and then redeploy. I could deploy this into 100 accounts in a matter of minutes. Okay, so this is my new function. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to delete a lot of this, because a lot of this was for I just copied and pasted this from the media convert stuff. So I'm going to keep the logging information, and I'm basically just going to get rid of all of this. And okay. So first thing I do is my I have this environment variable, state machine ARN. So let me set that or get that, right? And then I need to go and get the bot03 state machine information. Okay, so bot03 is the library, the Python library to be able to interact with the Amazon AWS SDK. So here I'm going to create my step function client. And I want to start an execution. And okay, so state machine ARN, I pass it in as an environment variable. Oops. Oh my gosh. There. Wrong button. Okay, so that is required. The name of this execution is not required. And I'm just going to let it. So this would be the name of the execution. I could put this as the name, like the API log information. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it off for right now. I might put something more interesting in there. And same with like trace. I don't want to do anything there. But the input needs to be the JSON string that we're expecting. And if we go over to here, cool, that's working. The input that I've been giving it is basically this. I'm going to do state machine. It's basically this. So then this needs to be JSON loads. I'm really bad with like naming conventions of variables and so on. Okay, so this should be all, but this needs to come from the Atom feed. So let's go back to the definition. So now I've gotten to this point where this Lambda function is going to be called from API gateway, is going to be able to trigger the outgoing state machine. But what I need to do now is figure out how to parse the incoming value and then put it into this value here. There's other things I need to do to it. Like when you do a first subscribe, it passes you this tool pub/sub will pass me like a challenge that I have to then like kind of echo back and so on. So there's a little bit there that we need to do, but let's just first work on parsing this. And I found a Python library that looks like it'll do the parsing that I need. So basically I just did a search for Atom parser for Python 3 and found this library. It seems like it's pretty well maintained. And I decided I think this is what I'm going to use. Let me clean up these imports. My imports kind of got away from me. And so I probably need to do that through all the functions. I'll do that sometime. But the requirements of this function, I don't think I need any of these because I'm just using the bot03. So I'm just going to say Atom A is going to be my requirements. And so when Sam goes to deploy this, it will look at these requirements, use pip to download them all and package up a zip file of all these requirements and then upload that to Amazon. I don't need to worry about that here. I just know that Sam will do that for me. So now I can say import Atom A. Okay, so the event is going to contain the API details from API gateway, and I'm logging that so I can tell exactly what's in that. I'm going to actually do I'm getting a little bit better about the way I do logging, and one of the things is I want to try doing JSON.loads in all these events so that what gets logged into CloudWatch will be the actual JSON. What gets logged now is not quite JSON. You can get to JSON very quickly, but you have to replace like single quotes with double quotes. So I'm trying this out. I want to try this out, see if this gives me better logging, and then I'll go back to all my other functions and update that as well. Okay. So one of the things I don't know is what this event payload looks like. And the fun thing is I could go through documentation and figure this out. I'm hoping that... So also, this is another lazy way that I will do development. I'll put everything together and then trigger it and then look at the logs and figure out what I need to do to fix and kind of line everything to get it kind of in place. So I could look at the documentation and figure out what property in the event actually contains the payload body that I want to look for. I'm just going to pretend that it's there, and then I'll deploy it and then look at the logs and be able to figure it out and parse it just fine. Until then, I just deploy code that I know is going to break, but then I can get smarter about it. Okay, so this Atomate library, you can like pass it a full XML file to parse. I don't want to do that, but what I did like is that you can do this call, which allows you to just parse just like the bytes of that. So here, feed equals this. So this is going to be events dot. I know it's not this, but I'm just going to put events dot body in there, and then that should work. And then I'll deploy this up there, and then I'll muck with it on the console to get it to where I want, and then I'll come back and update this code. And so then the feed should be what we're looking for, and I think if I do feed dot entry dot link. I'm trying to get to this. What I'm not entirely sure is how do you get the href off of it, but I'm just gonna try this first. Oops. And again, this is going to fail spectacularly, but that's good. We'll learn from that failure, and we'll be agile, and we'll continue going on from that. Okay, so here now I have my Lambda function is going to get called from my function or my API gateway. I have now my serverless application model all updated. I should be able to deploy this. And build failed immediately. That is perfect. What did I miss here? What's the error? It says starting build inside a container, Docker is unreachable. I need to start Docker up. So I'm using SAM. SAM will deploy all this up to AWS. It uses Docker with a specific AWS Lambda container, one for Python, one for Node, because I'm mixing code here. And so what it uses Docker for is it'll actually run Docker to compile all of the Lambda functions. So the Lambda functions get compiled inside of a Docker container, and that ensures that when it goes and uses pip to download all the requirements and dependencies, or in Node npm, all of those get built on a platform that is compatible with AWS's Lambda function in the cloud. So really, really useful and fun way of doing this. But it also means that whenever you do a build, it does take some time because it has to go and compile every single one of the Lambda functions. So it can take a few minutes to do this. And obviously, if you have Docker not even running, then it's going to take even longer. So again, what am I doing here? So this is SAM. It is taking this template that I've built and been defining. It's all infrastructure, and the code is defined here. Infrastructure refers to the code, and it is building it, and then it's going to upload that to S3, and then it is going to deploy that infrastructure to S3. I already have this somewhat deployed in the cloud. If I come over to CloudFormation here, like I already have a bunch of these resources there. So what SAM is going to do, and it's going to use CloudFormation to do it, it's going to say, what's the difference between what we currently defined and what's up there, and let's publish out a difference. It looks like my webcam is lagging pretty bad. Yeah, so Thanks for joining. So I am actually my webcam is terrible. So I'm currently using Starlink internet to get to the internet, and so what I'm trying to do is experiment with a bunch of different settings to be able to get to the best bandwidth possible. I live like in the middle of nowhere in Arizona, and so my internet options are very limited. So I'm using Starlink right now, and so I'm sorry to hear that it's laggy. That actually makes me quite sad that it's doing that. But thanks for joining. I really appreciate it, and thanks for the feedback. Let me work on it and see if I can't figure out if I can make anything. Okay. So this definitely failed. Invalid template property down here. So it was my output that it didn't like. So let me figure out the better way to specify that. I think I want to go to actual CloudFormation. CloudFormation outputs. So again, what I'm trying to do is I need to, that's helpful. Oh, this is fun. So again, I have an output here because I wanted to specify like what the YouTube or what the API endpoint URL is going to be so I can plug that in. And if you just joined, like what I'm trying to do, so I'm building an Alexa skill that is going to be able to search archived YouTube videos and be able to play exactly starting from that point. So what I'm doing now is I'm building a webhook trigger that YouTube's going to use to call me to say, hey, we have a new video on the channel you're looking for, and then it's going to download those videos and process it. And the end result is I have in a searchable database full text transcription of those, so then I can make that available via an API call to Amazon Alexa. And so the end result is I can go to my device and say, show me from Alexa office hours, which is the videos I'm searching through, where this particular topic was, and it'll start playing on the device from that particular point in time. So that's what I'm building. It will transcribe and download and stitch together and then upload to a database the full text. So right now I have a bunch of this already working. Actually, I ran my state machine. I'm using state machine to orchestrate all this. This is how far I've gotten. So state machine will download the video, it'll convert it to the proper format, and then it'll do the transcription, and then call comprehend. And then the output of this is actually the text files, which I can put into my database. I just haven't built the database yet. I'm building the trigger that's going to call this state machine right now. And hopefully this works, because again, this takes a few minutes to run. I'm happy this ran. Last time I ran this state machine, it failed randomly, and it gave me some weird error that made me kind of think it was just some intermittent error. I'm hoping to at some point get to, I will get to it at some point, the beginning part of this where I have Alexa calling a custom skill that I'm going to write and so on. I just haven't got to that point yet. I want to make sure we have a backend database that populates first. Okay, so now it's building the CloudFormation change set. And it's going to tell me, here's what's changed. Do I want to apply the changes? And I say yes. And then now it's going to actually apply those changes. And hopefully I have the CloudFormation config set up correctly that this will deploy all the new resources that I defined, which includes an API gateway. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into the API gateway and start setting test events. We know if we have things set up correctly, which I know for a fact that this function is not set up correctly. But instead of reading documentation, I'm just going to look at the different events that I've logged to be able to get to where I need to get to. Because I don't like reading documentation. I just like to build and then figure out what happens. It looks like it is deploying it just fine. So again, I'm building it on my local machine, and then I am deploying it up using CloudFormation. And I can go over to CloudFormation here, and you can see the exact same thing. Everything's deploying great. Awesome. So now, see here, I have the output now tells me that this is the URI, the URL that I can call. So I'm going to copy paste this. I'll put this into here. So this is the API gateway URL that was just generated. But before I actually go and try and do anything there, I know this is going to fail spectacularly. So let me refresh the resources. And we should be able to get to, this is the REST API. Awesome. So let me go here. Make sure this looks like it was deployed fine. Yes, I have a post method. It's going to call my Lambda function. Lambda proxy. Great. Okay. And then let me go back here and find the Lambda function, which is here. Because what I want to do is I want to trigger manually the API gateway and then look at the CloudWatch logs of my function to see what I need to fix. I'll modify the code here, keep testing this until it works, and then I'll go back to my local and update it there. So let me also get the CloudWatch logs ready. Okay, so I want to take the sample from here of what the feed will look like. And I'm going to paste this to my API gateway. So they give you a nice little test method here. Pass this in. I could also call it, since this is published, this API is published, I could also trigger this from my command line, like using curl or something like that, or from anywhere. But let's test this out and see what happens. Internal server error, that's what I expected. But let's go over to CloudWatch. Log group doesn't exist yet. It should here now. So I come here. I did this backwards. Where is my function? Sorry. Okay. It's not JSON loads, but let me just get rid of this and deploy this and trigger this again. Okay. Now if we come back over to CloudWatch, we should get a better error message. So the first error message should be the incoming event. So here we can see the incoming event. I want to get to the body of this. So let me that's what I was trying to do. Let me reformat this just on pretty print. Oh my gosh. Make pretty. Nah. Because I didn't do the JSON dumps. Come on. Where's all my nuns? Okay, let me do this. I'm feeling particularly lazy right now. And the feed's not escaped. Okay. Let me get rid of the body because that's not necessarily important. Oh boy. Let's put that in a string. Okay, so this is the incoming event to my Lambda function. Again, I could have looked up the documentation for this, but what we want is event dot body. That's actually much easier than what I was expecting. So if we go to my Lambda function, event dot body, be that easy. So let me test this again after that gets deployed. Oops, I didn't wait for that to deploy. There we go. Now I can test it from API Gateway. Now I can look at my CloudWatch log. And I keep switching in between Node and Python too much, and then I make mistakes like that. But I should now have, let me actually go back and add the, is that the right? Yeah, that's exactly what I want. Okay. I second guess myself with really simple stuff sometimes. Okay. So again, I'm trying to figure out what the right code is to get the parse the input from the API, get the Atom feeder working. And then once I test this and get it working here, then I'll bring it back to my local and get that working. Okay. What I'm going to do, now I have full JSON. I'm going to copy this out, and I'm actually going to create a test event using this. So now I don't need to rely on, I don't have to rely on API Gateway to be able to test this Lambda function anymore. What's wrong with my JSON? I copy, And now I can just trigger it directly here, which will be a little bit nicer. Okay, so now I'm getting a message that this needs to be bytes. So I want to convert Python string to bytes. Stack Overflow. That's really simple. That looks too simple. Let me get a second opinion. That looks way too complex. Yeah, okay. It's just out in code. That seems way too simple. So what I was complaining about was this part here. This is looking for a bytes, not a string, as the function name would tell me. So I should have been able to figure that out. So let's test this. Could not parse. Does not have a feed ID. Oh no. There's no feed ID, so it can't parse it. Oh, this is not going to be fun. So now I need to find a different Atom. Or maybe I just need to, let me look at this code again. Okay, so what was the error? The error was does not have a feed ID. That's really sad. Wrong window. So it the Google Pub Hub Subbub is going to give me a Atom feed. I need to be able to parse that Atom feed in Python. I was hoping that this would do that, but it is definitely not. It's giving me an error message that it is not going to work. I wonder if there's a way to, what other functions this thing have that I can take advantage of? So what was I calling? I was calling parse atom bytes. There's parse atom file. It is just XML. Return. Mandatory to get the feed ID. And I don't have a feed ID because Google doesn't give me a feed ID. That is unfortunate. Okay, so I need to figure out how to parse this. It's just XML, so Python 3 parse XML. I hate parsing XML. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. I don't know if I've ever parsed XML in Python yet. See, this is the type of stuff I don't necessarily want to do, but let's try it. Okay, so XML parsing. If anyone has an idea here or a suggestion, that would be cool. I guess this is just what I want to do. Is this a built-in function, or do I need to package a dependency? I'm hoping it's just a built-in function. It'll tell me really quick if it is not. Cool. Okay. So I can get rid of this Atom A stuff because that is not useful for me at all. And let's try this. Okay. ET parse. Parse from string. That's what I want. From string. Root equals that. Let's do not console. Oh my gosh. I keep switching back and forth. Root. Well, I know this is going to be wrong, but we haven't got that far yet. Actually, surely that won't work. Has no attribute entry. Oh, right. Okay. It's saying this failed. It actually did parse it, though. That's kind of cool. Okay, so dots are attributes, which is great. We need that. We also need to look at all the children. So let me just try. Okay, let me go back to the definition of the JSON or the XML. Okay, so I need the entry. So feed is the parent or the root. Then I need entry and then link. Okay, so I need to look through the children. And I thought this had a way to kind of zoom down to what I was looking for. Like do a, yeah. Okay, so here, find all country. It's not quite what I'm looking for. Maybe it is. Maybe this is because I want to find all of the I want to find all of the entries inside of here. Actually, I want to find all the links. Will this zoom down to just the links? Yeah, find all the links. Find all link. Link.ref. Never used this library before. I barely have used Python. I've only started doing Python like a year ago. I'm trying to get better at it. Okay, that failed. Has no attribute entry. Let me get rid of this because I think that's blowing up a bunch of stuff. Yeah, I know. Weird. Okay. Getting closer. Let me do what every experienced developer does. Logging here. Let's just see if I can get to that point. Nobody's giving me any tips, so. That should be true. That's what that error is. True is not defined, I know. Okay, so it definitely didn't find all those. So let's go up the tree once. Let's see if we can find all entry. Again, I'm just looking for that here statement. You know, I could also write like unit tests on my local machine and test all this, but what fun is that? That's not fun at all. Okay, so I fixed the issue, but it's still not finding my entries. I expected to find entry based upon that. Finds all matching subelements by tag, name, or path. Returns list containing all the matching elements. This is the syntax I was looking for. Okay, so we want /entry link. Okay. Let me do this. For child in root. See, I thought I was all ready to go with this other library and that this would just be super quick. I thought I'd done my research, but I didn't actually test it. I just quickly did a Google search, saw that it was there. Cool. Okay, so this is working. So what are the different children? Feed link. See, okay, this is the very top feed link entry. So why isn't this syntax working? Let me go back to that find all. All neighbor. Okay, where was country data? Country data. Okay, so this is the root there. Feed. Oh. I don't need to do that, do I? I don't think so. But I want to try it. Nope. Okay, so that's fine. We'll just do it longhand. So what do I want? I want dot tag, child dot tag. I'm just going to loop over. This is fine. This will get me all of the, there's more than one entry in here, then this will for sure get me that too. So I was expecting, oh. I think I see what the problem is. It's putting this, was that namespace on the front of it? Yeah, how do I get rid of the namespace? Parsing XML with namespaces. Jeez, I bet if I were to do this, it would work. My second one would work down here. Element has no attribute ref. Okay. I got to here. That's progress. We're making progress. Again, I want to get this set up so when we do office hours tomorrow, I at least can like test this in some realistic thing. Okay, here, and then element. Yep. Okay, so I found the link, but now I want the attribute ref off of that. So I thought last time I did this, it got mad at me. Oops, I need to wait for that to finish. Line 40. What? I'm going to redeploy. I hit test in the middle of the redeploy, and that can sometimes be weird. No, I just have an error. Attribute error. Object doesn't have attribute ref. What attributes does it have? It has to have ref. It's a link. Okay, how do I loop over the attributes? Okay, is there like a get attribute? Because I want find all characters. See, I don't have any examples. Okay, I can do this. This should work. .get. Thanks for the name spacing. None. Maybe the dot syntax just doesn't work. It's just the dot syntax. Okay. Wow. Okay. Cool. I know what to do now. Okay, so now we can get rid of this, and get rid of this, and get rid of this. URL equals this. Inside this loop, I want to do this, and then, URL. Okay, so I'm going to loop through my Atom feed, find all of the links that are underneath the entries, because if I come back here, this is the correct syntax. I want to exclude these links, so I force it down underneath link entry. Grab the URL, stick it in here, execute my state machine, grab the response, and be good to go. And actually, I've been probably triggering that state machine this whole entire time. I have been. That's awesome. Got my permissions correct because it's been going. Okay. So now if I execute this, success true, the state machine is going to kick off again, and it'll fail, but hopefully the input is not the right input. Wrong function. I need to log that too. Oh, we're so close. Come on, deploy. Okay. Updating, deployed, testing. Success true. Does have the right URL. So let's get past the state machine. Let me go back to the state machine. Find the one that was just executed. Looks like it should be this one. The input should have the URL. Awesome. Obviously, that's not a good URL, but that should work. Okay. So now let me bring this code back to my local before I forget. So I iterated in the cloud, but I bring it back here. So this is my source of truth always. And so this is all deployed. I'll redeploy to make sure it's all working. But just to make sure I have the right URL, production stage, that is the invoke URL. Awesome. And the output from CloudFormation is also this. So yeah, I know I can't do a get there. I'm just going to do a quick curl command to make sure that this is working. Did I get the right URL? It doesn't matter. I'm just trying to make sure I get to the right place. Because I should be, it's either slash or production slash. Because my resources, I just define this as just the slash post. So it's either this or this. And it looks like it's the second one because I'm expecting an internal server error because I gave it bad JSON. If I come to here, hopefully I see invalid token, resource, bad JSON. Awesome. Okay. So let's go to here. I was hoping to get further than this today. But if I put this here, I should be able to like trigger the pub subhub subscription start, but it's going to fail. Or that wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting something a little different than that. Okay, so I'm going to grab these two URLs. I'll put them in notes in CloudFormation just so I have them. Okay, I'm expecting this to fail because I need to like respond to a challenge and other things like that. So I'm expecting, but I'm not expecting like a complete blank error page. Hopefully this still works. Oh my goodness. What the heck? Great. That's a good sign. If this subscription doesn't work, I will be very disappointed because I just spent this whole time trying to code to it. But it's not triggering the API because that's the last API call that went there was my bad JSON. Bad response code. Okay. Getting better. Still not getting in here. This is still just... Hopefully that will trigger it. Come on. So I have no idea if this is bad response from the pub sub hubbub, bad response from my API. Like, what's the bad response here? And I may just have to figure this out. I may have to figure this out offline because I definitely have other things I got to work on today. But this is disappointing. This is really disappointing. Bad response 403. And this is the URL that I just tested and worked. Set the callback server, like handling notifications. Mode subscribe. Callback URL to the URL you set up in step 1. There's that. There's that. Set the topic URL. Did that. Oh no. what is really annoying to me is it's not even getting to my Lambda function. So I may have to research the pub sub hub thing. Yep. Okay. I'm gonna have to call it a day here. That's too bad. But I will check in all this code here soon. I definitely want, like, I like this solution. It looks like all the documentation says it should still work. So let me just do some research on this and figure out why I'm not able to subscribe to this. I'm going to take down my API so it's not just widely open and public right now. Yeah, so we'll continue on this. I normally stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm going to have to skip this week's Wednesday. I have a conflict, but I'll be back at this on Friday, and hopefully we can get going on this. I really wanted to get this working so that tomorrow when we're done with office hours, that this would post and go all the way through to having a transcription. We're not there. That's all right. We'll just continue working on it. And I definitely appreciate anyone following me along. Hopefully this is interesting, educational, helpful. I don't know. But with that, have a good day. All right. Thanks, everybody.